because I'm going to stay in this position. That's my choice. And as long as I help you recognize that you have a choice in this process. Welcome back for another episode of Warrior Living TV. My name is Michael Adams, and I am the author of A Warrior's Mindset, speaker, and transformational coach. Today we're talking about this topic: how to know if fear is winning. Now, I have been going through this period just like everybody else, in quarantine, Corona, COVID. The amounts of, people being infected, those near you, people who have actually lost their lives, just a very up and down time, right? We will talk about this time for a number of years. And what I wanted to just touch on is, how do you know if fear is winning? Really ask that question to yourself. How do I know if fear is winning in my life? Because there's two things, that are either winning in your life. Either fear, anxiety, and worry is winning in your life, or being courageous, being at peace, and loving is winning in your life. You can't have either or. You can have a little bounces of both, but guaranteed for most people living right now, this is probably winning in your life. So if you are in that category, definitely one session for you to watch right here. And so I want to ask you just a couple questions to gauge where you're at. Have you ever been to a point where conflict came up in your life because of the fear that you were having? You made you worry and think about those who are coming into your home. To the extent where maybe something is happening out there that is going to affect me, and we right now, for anybody who is in fear mode, right, there's a fine line between this. Fear, F-E-R-R, it's funny, F-E-A-R, fear and safety. There's a fine line, because what most of us who are staying in fear, we're allowing fear to win in our life right now. We are drawing this thin line, because safety, right? We are doing all these things, these new procedures, these new protocols in our life in the name of safety. Safety, right? So what is safety? Safety is, sharing your concern and welfare for the, health of others, for the health of yourself, for the well-being of yourself, right? And to be safe is to take safety precautions to avoid anything from happening. Right? So say, for instance, we have a disease, or we say we have a virus or a bacteria that is being passed through germs, or just again those bacteria, those virus, being placed on a surface, and a surface that can be transferred from hand to hand. We know the basics of that, what that means, right? And so safety says that, hey, the safety precautions are that you take a wipe, a disinfectant wipe, you take hand soap, and you clean those surfaces and make sure you get into the routine of cleaning those surfaces. Any public places where a lot of people gather, you want to take extra precautions to, wash your hands, clean yourself, and then, avoid touching the face as much as possible. Safety precautions, right? Now that's as far as safety precautions go. That's, if you are going through those routines and those steps to ensure that, those practices of you just, again, the routine, that means that you go overboard, wiping down every single thing that has ever been touched. but to the extent that you feel you are doing the best you can and leaving it. Right now, this time has either shot up your fear or it's either shot up your safety. For those who are feeling like they need to be safe, right? You are doing precautions to be able to ensure your safety because you care about the well-being of others, and you're doing it all in the name of safety and love. However, there's a little fine line between this and fear, because see, on the fearful side, this is where you have to do an internal check and internal assessment of where you're at. Because if fear is now accompanied by excessive worry, right? Just this excessive worrying about, who was where, where were they at, and, who can come into, this place or that place. And if, all this excessive worry comes into play along with fear and begins to, again, be accompanied by anxiety, anxious thinking of what could go wrong, right? This is, what could go wrong? And now we have partners playing in fear. We have worry, we have anxiety, the anxiety of what could go wrong, and the excessive worry of where am I putting my thinking into, what's out of my control, right? And for most of us, we have this boundary of safety. Like in my situation, I have a wife and 2 daughters who live in our household, right? And then we have our extended family, which are grandparents and, our brothers and sister loved ones. And so to the degree that you all are, and this is where the trust comes in, right? To the extent that everybody in your family is taking precautions to ensure that they are doing the protocols, to ensure their washing hand practices and, taking care of themselves practices. Now, anybody out here who steps into the circle just has to be trust that you demonstrate to yourself, right? There's a point where you've done all you can to the best of your ability to ensure safe practices, and then the line comes of trust. Now here's the real thing that is, relevant about this time. Could, you getting a virus or a bacteria lead to death? Yes, that is very real. In the statistics of how things are broken down, right, I think it's like less than 5% death, and like, I don't know, something like 60% asymptomatic, and about 15% showing the signs. And when you look at those statistics, I think 50, 20, 60, so this would be actually 80. And when you look at those statistics, this is really how it's broken down. And so when we step into fear mode, what are we really paying attention to? And so, we have the transitioning now from, the quarantine, left being a little bit more at ease, into stepping into, regular society and how it's functioning and operating, right? Stores and, businesses have begun to take these precautions of, okay, what practices and procedures and routines can we practice to ensure our customers the best feeling of safety, right? And again, this is a feeling, right? So you can do what you can to the best of your ability, but to some extent, if you are going to step out of this, there is a line that you have to cross. And that line is trust. And if this is a very difficult thing for you, you are going to extend this quarantine period on in your life. And so what this means is being able to trust that people or routines or procedures have been in place to protect you. Trust that, that, hey, I've done the best to my ability, and I'm ensuring that I've done the best to teach other people around me the best practices, that we are going to, do something or step out of something. The degree that you can trust is really the degree that you are going to allow this to subside in your mind. Because the reality is, bacteria, viruses, and all these germs, they exist everywhere. I mean, washing our hands is not something new. Maybe we're a little bit more diligent about it now, but this is not something that is new. And bacteria and viruses have always been here. And it's essential for our immune system because, without, a little bit of challenge, without a bit of friction, the immune system can't respond in a way that's built strength, right? We know this from our bodies. And so being able to step into a trusting identity is something that is going to serve you, because at the end of the day, did you do the best that you can to protect your family? Did you do the best that you could to ensure your family's safety? Did you do what you needed to do to ensure your safety? Right? And if you can answer those questions, you did the best within your circle. And that's all you can do. There are some things that are out of your control, like who gets it. There is no telling. I mean, here's a real fact, just to stop the worrying inside any person. But here's a real fact: you could have done all you can to ensure your family's safety, even if you stayed in a bunker and hid 50 feet below the ground and made sure that every single thing that was ever brought into, from the outside into your home was wiped down and gone through the sanitation process, and the most cleanest thing. You could have done all of that. You could have lived in a sanitary facility that had all these barriers that cleansed and cleaned every single thing coming in. Boy in the bubble. You could have done all that. Does that 100% guarantee you're not going to get something? No. We know this for a fact. You cannot guarantee anything. You cannot guarantee whether your children get it. You cannot guarantee whether someone in your life gets it. You cannot guarantee whether that person is going to get it or that person is going to get it, or whether somebody who walks in who you don't know where they came from, whether they got it. You cannot guarantee any of that. And see, this is where we step into that fear. We're trying to guarantee, we're trying to protect in the name of safety, in the name of love, by thinking that we're showing love by staying in excessive worry, by staying in anxiety. However, let me ask you that question. Who is that making you become? Who is this person who you're becoming by staying in fear? I mean, what are you demonstrating on how to live life? Are you teaching, especially if you have kids, are you teaching your kids how to be fearful of others? Are you teaching kids how to worry? Are you teaching kids how to be anxious? How to focus on something that has not even happened, or has the potential of not even happening? Are you teaching your children how to focus on the negative? Are you teaching people how to interact with you? Right? We have to remember that this is a choice. Nobody told us to avoid certain people. Nobody told us that we had to do this, right? These are precautions that have been set out, and you had the individual choice to choose how you're going to respond. It took me back to a quote that says, life is 10% what happens, 90% how you respond to it. And how you're responding How are you responding in this time? I guarantee if you're over here in fear, excessive worry, anxiety, I get it. I get it. This time did not make you this person. This circumstance that we're in did not make this person. I'm from the standpoint that this was already in you, and the circumstance just exacerbated it, right? If you're someone who is in this position of fear, excessive worry, anxiety, guarantee you were that, because the situation happened, you weren't already this person. The situation just exacerbated, made it increase that person who you already were living as. But again, you have to have that choice. You need to understand that you have the choice, and with this insight to know that, I did the best that I could. I did the best that I could with the time that I had to live the best that I could have lived. If you're to look back in your life and know that you are going to not be here tomorrow, right? You are going to not be here next week, and this really sets it in for you, just to presuppose this, that if life for you wasn't guaranteed up until the next week, and you had the ability to look back on how you were living this past month, 2 months, what would that say about you? Would you look back with regret? Would you look back with knowing that you were doing the best that you could, but then also made time to live in courage, to live in peace, and to live in love, and to enjoy those moments of life, that life did not stop for you because of the circumstances that changed, but it only continued in a direction, right? If you were to look at those moments, just to reflect, who have you been showing up as? And if you are not loving that person that you've been showing up as, I guarantee you, when this situation all dwindles down, your fear, anxiety, worry may dwindle down, but you are still going to be in this person. So let this circumstance tell who you are living in life. Because it is possible. It is possible for you to grow beyond what's going on, grow beyond yourself. And that initial step that you can take is those that you take to make new choices. Those new choices lead to different directions, lead to a new trajectory in your life. And so here's a little tool to be able to use. Right here it says 1. Say this statement when you get into this fear and excessive worry and anxiety. You're going to need something to have to identify it, because guarantee if you're sitting over here, it's become a habit. It's become habitual in you. It's become that program within you that sometimes you can't even control but help. That's automatically where your thoughts go. I get it. And it creates so much friction inside you, and you know that you should be living over here, but all you can feel is this, and you're reaching for something new. But eventually, to break the pattern, you are going to have to recognize it. You're going to identify it. And let me ask you, are you this person? Is that how you really want to live the entire life? This blessing that you have to be able to have a heart beating, to be able to be standing, or to be sitting, or to be listening, to be able to utilize your eyes, right? All that is wrapped into you being able to be alive. And because you're alive, there are some people out there that care for you, some people who recognize you. Whether you see it or not, there are some people who would be there for you if something happened to you. And so when you're recognizing it, you have to be able to recognize. And I like to recognize it with this statement: this is not me. This is not me. This is not the person that I was born into this life to be, to just continually be a fearful, living in fear, excessive worry, anxiety, and thinking about, you're not enjoying life. not enjoying life. I mean, this is, if you want me to give you the ingredients on how not to enjoy life, I say do this. If you want to know how to not enjoy living your life, I want you to be fearful. That means fear everything. Fear all the things that can happen to you. Think about all the bad that can go wrong, and stay up late at night thinking about all the stuff that could happen, and all the things that could go wrong, and all the things that are going to go wrong, and pretty soon you expect them to happen, and pretty soon they do all happen, and pretty soon it leaves you in pain and loss and hurt. And that cycle keeps continuing because you continue to stay in fear. You continue to stay in worry. You continue to stay in anxiety, and nothing's going to change. And because you stay in that, you attract it. And because you attract it, you stay in pain, hurt, guilt, regret. And that's not living. That's living for some people. But I know if you're watching this, that's not living for you. So you understanding that, hey, I mean, how long am I going to let myself live like this? How long am I going to stay in this position where life doesn't move? Because I'm going to stay in this position, that's my choice. And as long as I help you recognize that you have a choice in this process, all the things happening around, it can be a zombie apocalypse where one person touches you and you're infected and you become a zombie, right? I mean, that's pretty much what it kind of feels like to some people in some households. But to the extent that, I mean, do you want to live in a zombie apocalypse, being boarded up and shielded from living life? That's surviving. That's not living. Where do you want to be? I guarantee you this is not life and death situation, right? 5% people will actually lead to death. I mean, that's people who already have weak immunity, people who have, just this, situation in their body that, hey, you know what, it just naturally happened. 80% walking around asymptomatic without showing symptoms. They may have the virus or whatever, but asymptomatic, they're not showing any intent. Their body gets through it. 15% actually show the signs of, what's going on. So look at, the real numbers and understand that, how am I living? Am I living like it's a zombie apocalypse, boarding up my windows and boarding up my walls and nobody comes in because of this could happen? You're surviving. Surviving in a time when it doesn't even mean that, life is not happening, because you get to go outside, you get to enjoy your life, you get to be here with your family. So look at how you're going with this, and that was what I wanted to share with you in this episode, how to know if fear is winning. Because if it is, you have more to give in your life. Thank you, warriors. My name's Michael Adams, and I just want to share this with you and know that you can grow beyond your circumstances. You have the capability, the power. I don't say that to rah-rah motivate you, but to know that scientifically anybody's capable of change by changing the input to get new output, right? By staying in programs or staying within the content area of to say, hey, this person has something to share with me. How can I share? How can I get involved? How can I be a better version of me? All right, see ya.